The message. The quantum array at SETI's Mauna Kea facility wasn't supposed to detect anything unusual that night. Dr. Sarah Chen had run the same calibration sequence hundreds of times before, a routine check of the most advanced listening post humanity had ever built. The signal that suddenly filled her screens was anything but routine. "This can't be right," she muttered, fingers flying across the holographic interface. The quantum frequencies shouldn't have been possible with current technology. Yet there they were, dancing across her display in perfect, deliberate patterns. Within hours, similar signals were detected by every major observatory on Earth. The message itself arrived exactly 12 hours after the first detection, broadcasting simultaneously on every frequency humans could monitor. The aliens didn't bother with complex encryption or mathematical sequences. They spoke English, Mandarin, Hindi, and a dozen other Earth languages, their words precise and carefully chosen. "We are the collective," the message began. "Your species stands at a crossroads. In 30 of your days, a massive solar flare will strike Earth. Your technology will burn. Your infrastructure will collapse. This is not a threat. It is an inevitability we have observed countless times across countless civilizations." Sarah sat in the hastily assembled UN emergency session, watching diplomatic faces grow pale as the message continued playing. She'd been flown to New York within hours of the signal's detection, along with other leading scientists from around the globe. "We offer you a chance. Before you lies the same challenge that has faced every spacefaring race in this galaxy. We call it the Axiom, a puzzle that has ended civilizations and begun others. Solve it, and you will have the means to protect yourselves. Fail, and your species must begin again in the ashes of your technology." The room erupted in overlapping voices, but Sarah barely heard them. Her attention was fixed on a holographic display showing the axiom. It wasn't numbers or complex mathematical formulas as many had expected. Instead, it showed what appeared to be a three-dimensional maze of interconnected energy patterns, each shifting and flowing in ways that seemed to defy physics itself. "The axiom is not merely a test of intelligence," the message continued. "It is a key to understanding the fundamental nature of consciousness and reality itself. Every civilization that has reached your level of development has faced this challenge. None have solved it in the way we believe possible." Commander Marcus Torres, head of Earth's newly formed United Defense Initiative, stood at the podium now. "How do we know this isn't a trick? Some kind of psychological warfare before an invasion?" Sarah studied the axiom's patterns, something tugging at the edges of her consciousness. "Because they're not hiding anything," she said, drawing surprised looks. "These energy patterns, they're familiar. They match quantum fluctuations we've observed in human consciousness during deep meditative states. Whoever these aliens are, they're showing us something we've already seen. We just never knew what we were looking at." The next week passed in a blur of global cooperation unprecedented in human history. The world's most powerful quantum computers were networked together, analyzing the axiom from every conceivable angle. Military forces were mobilized, not for war, but to begin preparing for the possibility of global infrastructure collapse. Humanity, for perhaps the first time, moved with single-minded purpose. Sarah worked with a team of quantum physicists, neuroscientists, and consciousness researchers from around the world. The axiom's patterns seemed to shift differently for each observer, yet maintained mathematical consistency that should have been impossible. "It's like it's alive," Dr. James Wilson, a consciousness researcher from Oxford, remarked during one late-night session. "The patterns respond to observation itself, but not in any way we can predict." Sarah nodded, her mind racing. What if that's the point? Every civilization before us probably tried to solve this using pure logic, pure mathematics. But look at how it responds to consciousness itself. We're not supposed to solve it. We're supposed to understand it. The breakthrough came 22 days before the deadline. Sarah was meditating, something she'd started doing to clear her mind during the endless hours of research. As her consciousness settled into that space between thoughts, She saw the actions patterns reflected in her own mind, not as an external puzzle to be solved, but as a map of consciousness itself. "Get me the UN Security Council," she said, bursting into the command center where Commander Torres maintained his vigilant watch. "I know what we've been missing. The axiom isn't a test of our technology or our intelligence. It's a test of our understanding of ourselves." As she explained her theory to the assembled leaders, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that humanity's response to this challenge would define not just their survival, but their place in a universe far stranger and more conscious than anyone had imagined. The collective's message had been right about one thing: humanity stood at a crossroads. But as Sarah prepared to share her unprecedented approach to the axiom, she realized that perhaps that had been true long before any alien signal reached Earth. The real question wasn't whether humanity could solve the puzzle. The question was whether humanity was ready to fundamentally change how they saw themselves and their place in the cosmos. The solar flare was coming. The clock was ticking, and Sarah Chen was about to propose something that would either save humanity or prove once and for all that they weren't ready for the deeper mysteries of the universe. The awakening. Commander Marcus Torres stood in the hardened bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching streams of data flow across massive screens. 21 days remained until the solar flare, and humanity's response had split into two distinct camps. The conventional approach, led by the world's leading physicists and mathematicians, attempted to decode the axiom through pure logic. But it was Sarah Chen's unconventional theory that kept him awake at night. "Show me the consciousness readings again," he ordered. The central screen shifted, displaying real-time data from volunteers participating in Sarah's experiments. Hundreds of people worldwide now spent hours in deep meditation, their brain waves synchronized with the axiom's patterns. "Sir, you need to see this." Dr. Emily Rodriguez, the team's lead neurologist, pointed to an anomaly in the data. "The synchronization isn't just getting stronger, it's changing the axiom itself." Marcus leaned closer. The holographic display of the axiom pulsed with new patterns, responding to the collective consciousness of the volunteers. It was beautiful, mesmerizing, and absolutely terrifying to a man trained to protect humanity from external threats. "Dr. Chen's theory might be correct," Emily continued, "but we have no way to predict what happens if we fully synchronize with this thing. It could be a trap, a way to manipulate human consciousness directly." Across the world, strange phenomena had begun to manifest. People reported shared dreams, unexpected flashes of insight, and moments of inexplicable connection with others. The axiom's influence was spreading beyond the research facilities, touching humanity in ways that defied scientific explanation. Sarah Chen hadn't slept in 36 hours. She sat cross-legged in her private research chamber, surrounded by quantum sensors and neural monitors. The axiom's patterns danced before her closed eyes, more familiar now than her own reflection. "It's not just a test," she whispered to the empty room. "It's an invitation." The door opened, and Marcus entered, his footsteps echoing in the quiet space. "Talk to me, Doctor. What are we really dealing with here?" Sarah opened her eyes, and for a moment, Marcus could have sworn they held the same shifting patterns as the axiom. "The collective didn't give us this puzzle to test our problem-solving abilities," she said. "They're showing us what we've always been capable of, but never realized." She stood, moving to the main console. "Look at these readings. When we approach the axiom as a mathematical problem, it remains static. But when we engage with it through consciousness itself, it responds, grows, evolves. It's not just measuring our abilities, it's helping us develop them." "Develop them into what?" Marcus asked, voicing the fear that had haunted military and political leaders since the phenomena began. "Into what we were always meant to be." Sarah pulled up new data, showing the increasing synchronization between human consciousness and the axiom's patterns. Every civilization before us probably tried to crack this like a code, to dominate it with logic. But what if the real test is our willingness to grow, to transform? The facility's alarms suddenly blared to life. On the main screen, The Axiom's patterns had begun shifting more rapidly than ever before. Around the world, millions of people reported simultaneous headaches, visions, and an overwhelming sense of connection to something vast and incomprehensible. "It's starting," Sarah breathed, her eyes wide with wonder and apprehension. "The awakening." Marcus grabbed her arm. "Starting? What's starting? What have we done?" Before she could answer, the Axiom's display erupted in a cascade of new patterns. In research facilities worldwide, volunteers in meditation suddenly sat up in perfect synchronization, their eyes open but seeing something beyond physical reality. "We needed to reach a critical mass," Sarah explained, her voice calm despite the chaos. "Enough human minds in harmony with the Axiom to initiate the next phase. The collective isn't just testing us. They're guiding us toward a fundamental shift in human consciousness itself." The room's lights flickered as power fluctuations rippled through the facility. On one screen, satellite data showed the approaching solar flare, now just 3 weeks away. But on another, the neural readings from the synchronized volunteers showed something unprecedented. Their brains were operating in patterns previously thought impossible. "Choice time, Commander," Sarah said, turning to face Marcus. "We can shut this down, try to solve the Axiom through conventional means, and probably fail like every civilization before us. Or we can embrace this transformation, even though we don't fully understand where it leads." Marcus Torres had spent his entire career preparing to defend humanity from external threats. But as he watched the Axiom's patterns dance across the screens, as reports flooded in of similar phenomena worldwide, he realized that humanity's greatest challenge wasn't about defense at all. It was about evolution. "The conventional solution teams have made zero progress," he said finally. "Whatever this is, whatever we're becoming, it might be our only chance." Sarah nodded, relief visible on her face. "Then we need to accelerate the process, because I don't think that solar flare is a threat to be avoided. It's a power source we're being prepared to use." As if in response to her words, the Axiom's patterns surged again, and across the earth, millions more minds began to awaken to a reality they had never known existed. The transformation had begun, and humanity's definition of consciousness itself would never be the same. The hidden truth. 15 days remained until the solar flare, and Earth had become something none of its inhabitants fully recognized. The Axiom's influence had spread beyond the research facilities, touching minds across the globe. Dreams flowed like rivers between sleeping minds, and thoughts rippled through the collective consciousness of humanity like waves on an infinite ocean. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the United Nations Security Council, now permanently in session. The chamber hummed with a new kind of energy, not just the tension of impending doom, but the resonance of awakened minds struggling to understand their emerging capabilities. "We've discovered something in the historical records," she announced, her voice steadied despite her exhaustion. "Evidence that the Axiom has appeared before, long before our recorded history." The holographic display behind her showed cave paintings from various continents, ancient symbols that perfectly matched certain patterns within the Axiom. These aren't just artistic expressions. They're attempts to document previous encounters with the same phenomenon we're experiencing now. "Are you suggesting," the Chinese representative leaned forward, "that humanity has faced this test before?" "Not just humanity." Sarah brought up new images, mathematical analyses of apparently random patterns found in ancient ruins worldwide. Every civilization that reached a certain level of development encountered the Axiom. Most tried to solve it through technology or mathematics. All of them failed. Commander Torres, standing at the back of the chamber, felt the weight of this revelation. "But they failed differently than we're failing," he added, stepping forward. "Our analysts have found something in the pattern of failures." The display shifted again, showing a complex timeline of civilizations rising and falling across Earth's history. Each civilization got closer to understanding the true nature of the Axiom. "It's not just a test. It's an evolutionary catalyst." Sarah nodded, taking over. "The collective isn't testing our problem-solving abilities. They're waiting for a species to reach the point where they can recognize what the axiom really is, a key to unlocking consciousness itself. The chamber erupted in overlapping conversations, but a new kind of understanding flowed beneath the verbal exchanges. The awakened minds in the room could feel the truth of her words in a way that transcended language. In the 2 weeks since the awakening began, humanity had started to change in fundamental ways. Children born during this period showed unprecedented cognitive abilities. The elderly reported renewed mental clarity. And everyone, regardless of their initial skepticism, could feel the growing connection between all human consciousness. But there's more, Sarah continued, her voice cutting through the noise. The approaching solar flare. It's not random. Previous civilizations faced similar astronomical events at crucial moments in their development. The collective isn't just testing us. They're offering us a power source for the greatest transformation in human history. Dr. Emily Rodriguez burst into the chamber, clutching a tablet. Sarah, you need to see this. The axiom. It's changing again. On every screen worldwide, the axiom's patterns shifted into new configurations. But this time, they matched exactly with the predicted pattern of the approaching solar flare. It's a key, Sarah breathed, understanding flooding her awakened consciousness. Not to prevent the flare, but to use it. Previous civilizations tried to shield themselves, to survive through technology alone. But the real solution is to evolve beyond the need for shielding. Commander Torres finished, the insight flowing through the collective consciousness of everyone in the room, to become something that can not only survive the flare, but harness its energy for transformation. The implications were staggering. Humanity faced not just a test of survival, but an opportunity for transcendence. The axiom wasn't a puzzle to be solved, but a manual for evolution itself. But time was running out. The solar flare approached, and despite their awakening consciousness, humanity still grappled with fear, doubt, and the weight of their own limitations. The connection between minds grew stronger by the hour, but with it came new challenges. The clash of billions of awakening consciousnesses, each struggling to understand their place in this rapid evolution. Sarah stood at the center of it all, her mind both individual and part of the growing collective. She could feel the approach of something beyond current human understanding, a potential future where consciousness itself became humanity's greatest technology. We have a choice to make, she addressed the council, her words echoing through the global consciousness. We can try to solve this like every civilization before us, using technology to shield ourselves from change. Or we can embrace this transformation, using the solar flare as the catalyst for an evolution that the collective has been guiding us toward since the beginning of our species. As if in response to her words, the axiom's patterns pulsed with new energy, and across the earth, millions of awakened minds turned toward a future that none of them could fully comprehend, but all of them could feel approaching with the inevitability of dawn. The choice. 7 days remained until the solar flare, and humanity stood at the precipice of the greatest decision in its history. The global consciousness had grown strong enough that the choice resonated in every awakened mind. Evolve or perish, transform or fade away like countless civilizations before them. In the quantum research facility beneath Mauna Kea, Sarah Chen watched as the axiom's patterns synchronized perfectly with the brainwaves of billions of connected human minds. The holographic display filled the circular chamber, its light dancing across the faces of the world's leading scientists and military leaders. The conventional solution is ready, Dr. James Wilson announced, his voice heavy with the weight of responsibility. We can use our quantum shields to deflect the worst of the solar flare. Survival rate estimates are at 60%. Commander Torres stood at the opposite side of the room, his consciousness now seamlessly linked with the others present. But we'd lose the chance for transformation. We'd survive, but remain unchanged. Exactly. Sarah stepped into the center of the chamber, her mind radiating the clarity that came with complete understanding. Every civilization before us reached this same point. They all chose safety over transformation, and in doing so, they failed the real test. The axiom pulsed in response to her words, its patterns revealing new depths of meaning to their awakened minds. Through their shared consciousness, everyone present could see the truth. The quantum shields would work, but at a cost none of them had initially understood. The shields wouldn't just protect us from the flare, Sarah explained, though most already grasped the concept through the collective consciousness. They would sever our connection to the quantum field that the axiom has helped us access. We'd survive physically, but lose everything we've gained in consciousness. Dr. Emily Rodriguez burst into the chamber, her mind broadcasting urgent discovery before she could speak. The ancient records, we've decoded more of them. The civilizations that failed. They didn't just choose wrong. They chose too soon. The holographic display shifted, showing historical data that now made perfect sense to their evolved understanding. Previous civilizations had rushed to implement their solutions, acting out of fear rather than wisdom. The flare isn't just a threat, Sarah said, the revelation flowing through the collective consciousness. It's the final piece of the puzzle. We're not supposed to avoid it or survive it. We're supposed to use it. Commander Torres moved to the central console, his military training now enhanced by awakened intuition. The axiom's patterns, they're not just matching the flare's energy signature. They're showing us how to channel it. The chamber hummed with the energy of billions of minds reaching the same understanding simultaneously. The conventional solution would save their bodies but cost them their evolutionary leap. The alternative was riskier, but offered something no human civilization had ever achieved. We need to build something new, Sarah said, her consciousness projecting the design that had formed in the collective mind. Not shields to deflect the flare, but a quantum resonance array to absorb its energy, to use it as the power source for our final transformation. The next 72 hours passed in a blur of unprecedented cooperation. Around the world, awakened minds worked in perfect harmony, their consciousness linked through the axiom's patterns. Factories reformed their production lines, satellites repositioned themselves, and a new kind of technology emerged, one that bridged the gap between matter and consciousness itself. But as the deadline approached, doubt crept into the collective mind. The risk was enormous. If they were wrong, if their interpretation of the axiom's message was flawed, humanity would have no protection when the flare hit. 4 days before impact, the choice had to be made. The quantum shields were ready, guaranteed to protect a majority of the population. The resonance array was also complete, but its success would depend on humanity's ability to maintain perfect conscious synchronization in the face of the most powerful solar flare in recorded history. Sarah stood before the Global Council, her consciousness connected to every awakened mind on Earth. We've spent our entire history trying to protect ourselves from the universe, she said, her words flowing through the collective consciousness. Every civilization before us did the same. But what if protection isn't the answer? What if we're meant to open ourselves to the cosmos, to allow ourselves to be transformed by it? The axiom's patterns surged with new intensity, and in that moment, every human mind connected to the collective felt the truth. The collective hadn't given them a test to pass or fail. They'd given them an opportunity to break free from the cycle of fear that had trapped countless civilizations before them. Commander Torres, who had spent his life preparing for war, now stood for transformation. "We didn't come this far to choose safety," he said, his consciousness radiating resolve through the collective. "We came this far to become something new." The decision rippled through the global consciousness like a wave of light. As the solar flare approached, humanity made its choice, not out of fear, but out of the wisdom that came from billions of minds working as one. They would not hide behind shields. They would embrace the fire that was coming, and use it to forge themselves into something the universe had never seen before. The resonance array hummed to life around the planet, its quantum fields synchronized with the axiom's patterns and the collective consciousness of humanity. In 4 days, they would either transcend their limitations or join the long list of civilizations that had faced this test and fallen short. But for the first time in human history, they faced this challenge not as scattered individuals, but as one awakened mind, ready to embrace whatever transformation the cosmos had in store for them. Transcendence. The solar flare arrived like a wall of cosmic fire, vast beyond human comprehension. But humanity was ready, not with shields or barriers, but with open arms and awakened minds. The quantum resonance array encircled the planet like a web of light, each node pulsing in perfect harmony with the Axiom's patterns and the collective consciousness of billions. Sarah Chen stood in the control chamber beneath Mauna Kea, her individual consciousness now just one thread in the vast tapestry of human minds, linked through the Axiom. Commander Torres and the others were there physically, but their true presence extended far beyond their bodies, merged into something greater than themselves. Impact in 5 minutes, the automated systems announced, though time itself seemed to flow differently through their transformed awareness. The Axiom's patterns danced across every screen, no longer a puzzle to be solved, but a blueprint for what humanity was about to become. Through their shared consciousness, they could feel the approaching flare not as a threat, but as pure potential, raw cosmic energy waiting to be shaped by their collective will. "Look," Emily Rodriguez whispered, pointing to new data streaming across the displays. "The flare. It's exactly like the patterns we found in those ancient ruins. They weren't warnings. They were instructions." Understanding flowed through the collective consciousness. Every civilization that came before had seen the patterns, had built their shields and barriers, had tried to survive unchanged. None had realized that the true test wasn't about survival at all. It was about having the courage to evolve. 2 minutes to impact. Through their expanded awareness, they could feel the collective watching. Not as distant observers, but as witnesses to something they had waited eons to see. A species that chose transformation over protection, evolution over stability. The resonance array hummed with increasing power, its quantum fields aligning with both the Axiom's patterns and the approaching flare. Humanity's consciousness expanded further, touching the edges of reality itself. They could see now what the Axiom had been trying to show them, that consciousness wasn't just an emergent property of complex brains, but a fundamental force of the universe itself. 1 minute to impact. "Everything we thought we knew about reality," Sarah spoke, her words flowing through the collective mind, "was just the surface. The Axiom wasn't testing our intelligence or our technology. It was showing us what we really are, what we've always been." The first waves of solar energy reached Earth's outer atmosphere. In previous ages, it would have been devastating. But now, through their transformed consciousness and the resonance array, humanity could see the energy for what it truly was. Information, potential, pure creative force waiting to be shaped by aware minds. 30 seconds. Commander Torres, the man who had spent his life preparing for war, now stood ready for peace. They weren't lying when they said this would end our civilization. He said, understanding flooding through him, but not through destruction, through transformation. The flare struck. Energy beyond measure cascaded through the resonance array, but instead of burning, it illuminated. The Axiom's patterns merged with the collective consciousness of humanity, and in that moment, every awakened mind understood. They weren't just surviving the flare. They were using it to rewrite the very foundations of human existence. Across the planet, the transformation rippled through every connected mind. Physical reality itself seemed to shift, responding to their expanded consciousness in ways that would have seemed impossible mere weeks ago. The energy of the flare, channeled through the resonance array and shaped by their collective will, became the catalyst for something unprecedented in Earth's history. Through their shared awareness, they felt the collective's response, not words, but a deep recognition. Humanity had done what no other species had managed. Instead of trying to solve the puzzle, they had become the solution. Instead of hiding from cosmic fire, they had learned to dance with it. The transformation lasted both an instant and an eternity. When it was complete, humanity remained, but fundamentally changed. Their consciousness now existed both individually and collectively, able to shift between states at will. The physical world had become more malleable to their perception, revealing layers of reality they had never imagined existed. Sarah opened her eyes to a world transformed. The actions patterns still danced across the screens, but now they were as readable as any human language. More than that, they were a part of humanity's new nature, a bridge between mind and matter, consciousness and reality. "They'll be coming soon," Commander Torres said, his consciousness touching the edges of space where the collective waited. Not as judges or teachers now, but as equals. Sarah nodded, feeling the truth of it through the collective awareness they all shared. "We didn't just pass their test," she said. "We transcended it. And in doing so, we've shown them something new. That evolution isn't just about survival or power. It's about having the courage to become something more than you ever imagined possible." Above them, the sun shone on a changed earth. The flare that might have ended their civilization had instead become the force that transformed it. Humanity had taken its first steps into a larger universe, not as conquerors or survivors, but as conscious co-creators of reality itself. The last warning had never been a threat. It had been an invitation to join the cosmic dance, and humanity had finally learned the steps.